असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मा अमृतं गमय। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Dear friends, it's a great pleasure meeting you all. It is always a pleasure to talk to the enlightened audience of AMA. And today is a special day, being the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi. And we are also fortunate that we are in Ahmedabad, where Gandhiji started his Sabarmati Ashrama. And for many years, he operated from Ahmedabad. Most of the letters, important letters, were written in Sabarmati Ashrama. Many important meetings, historical meetings, took place in Sabarmati Ashrama. Ahmedabad is that historic spot, and today is the historic date when Gandhiji was born. Another thing that you would not know is that Ahmedabad has an important role to play in the life of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, before going to America to participate in the Parliament of Religions, World Parliament of Religion in Chicago, as you know, it's 125th anniversary of that Chicago address is going on all over the world. That also is a good coincidence that we are celebrating 125th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda's Chicago speeches, and now the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi is going on. It is going to go on for 2 years, and this 125th anniversary is going to go on for 1 more year. So there have to be many such coincidences. This morning I was in Baroda, where they had an interfaith meet to celebrate the 125th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. At that time I had told it's a good thing that on 2nd October this is falling, this seminar. Why? Because both Mahatma Gandhi and Swami Vivekananda believed in interfaith harmony. Swami Gandhiji in his prayers will have a prayer of all the religions, and he included Raghupati Raghav Rajaram Pati Tapavan Sitaram Ishwar Allah Tero Nam Sabko Sanmati De Bhagwan. That's the addition that he did to make it more harmony, giving the message of harmony for religions. And Swami Vivekananda, as you know, what he did was in Chicago was nothing but bring about the harmony of religions. But before going to America, Swami Vivekananda traveled all over the country, and a very important part, perhaps the biggest, largest part of this travelogue was in Gujarat. And his travel to Gujarat started with Ahmedabad. From Rajasthan, he first came to Ahmedabad. He was the guest of Lal Shankar Umia Shankar Trawadi, the then sub-judge of Ahmedabad. And after staying for a few days in Ahmedabad, he then proceeded to Wadhwan, Limdi, Bhavnagar, Junagadh, Dwarka, Somnath, Porbandar, Bhuj, Narayan Sarovar, Mandvi, Palitana, Nadiyad. Last leg of his journey was in Baroda. And from Baroda he writes to the Diwan of Junagadh, Haridas Vihar Desai, on 26 April 1892, today I am leaving for Bombay. So his journey ended in 1892, 26 April, Gujarat. But he started from Ahmedabad. And Swami Vivekananda, when he went to Parliament Religions, he was, as you know, the whole world recognized him. He was an unknown monk here. It is when he delivered his historic speech that he became well known and India became well known. Otherwise, the country was also looked down upon. But do you know that Swami Vivekananda first came to learn about the Parliament religion that is going to be held in Chicago was in Gujarat. It is Gujarat that Swami Vivekananda came to know about the World Parliament religions. When Swamiji was traveling from Junagadh to Porbandar, he stopped at night for changing the train at Jetalsar railway station. The assistant station master, Hargovind Das Ajramar Pandya, he became charmed with his personality, and he told about the World Parliament Religion that is going to be held in Chicago. First time Swamiji came to know about it. Of course, decision was taken later on to participate, but the information he received was in Jetalsar railway station. And then from Jetalsar he went to Porbandar, and Porbandar he was the guest of the then administrator Shankar Pandurang Pandit. Normally he would not stay more than 3 days, but in Porbandar he stayed for more than 4 months because he fell in love with the library. He had a weakness for the books. And Shankar Pandurang Pandit was a great scholar who knew 19 languages at that time. And it is his library that attracted the attention of Swamiji, and Swamiji learnt Panini grammar and all that, and helped Shankar Pandurang Pandit in translating Atharva Veda. And then Shankar Pandurang Pandit said, Swamiji, nobody will understand, you are genius here, you ought to go to the West. And when you will go to the West, you will need to know French. I will teach you French. So Swamiji learned French in Porbandar. And then he went through all the scriptures and all the books that were available with Shankar Pandurang Pandit. So the bombs that he threw in the World Parliament Religion in Chicago, the thought bombs, all that gunpowder, he got it from Porbandar, from Gujarat. So Gandhiji born in Porbandar, and Swami Vivekananda got his gunpowder from Porbandar. Gandhiji started his movement in Ahmedabad. Swamiji started his travel of Gujarat in Ahmedabad. But there are many more. This is only a settlement, but there are many more similarities. We are not talking about comparison or similarities. It is just because these are the two great lights who have brought laurels to our nation. When Swami Vivekananda went to Chicago, Parliament Religions, what was the condition of our nation? At that time, India was looked down upon as an uncivilized nation. Of course, it was a slave country, and they thought it is full, there is no religion here, no culture here, and there is no education here, and the people are just savages. That was their concept. And Chicago, in America at that time, there were some books that were brought out. Songs for the Little Ones at Home. That was that book was there in every school in America. Songs for the Little Ones at Home, in which it was written, India is a savage country, and it is full of very different, strange type of people there, and we must send the Bible there to protect them, otherwise they will be all lost to humanity. Then India and its inhabitants. There was another book which was very popular among the whole of America, and there all the pictures were there. Along with the pictures there were stories, lot of stories. One story telling the mother putting her child onto the tree so that the birds can eat away the flesh, newborn children. And then women being burnt alive. Then on the under the chariot, people being killed. Then mother throwing her newborn babe into the river so that the crocodile could eat it, and there would be a picture of a crocodile eating the child. All these things were there in vogue, so that all the Americans had that type of image in India, image of India. Oh, it is an uncivilized country, and that is how it was told that now we must send the Bible there, because otherwise this country is nothing but fully uncivilized, and the mothers are so cruel and all that. Swami Vivekananda had to undergo a lot of trouble. He was a single man army to protest against all these types of lies that were being spread there for collecting funds. So when he was in Detroit, later on after he became famous, he was invited all over the country there for 3.5 years he had to preach. So in Detroit, when he was lecturing about the greatness of Indian culture, one woman stood up and said, Swami, you are all boasting too much about your culture. Is it not true that in your country, your mothers throw away their children into the river to be eaten away by crocodiles? Is it not true? Swamiji stood up and said, yes, madam, that is very true. You know, I too was thrown like this by my mother. But you know, I was so fat that the crocodile could not eat me, and so I am here to speak before you. This is how he had to reply to the questions. So many rise of lies, but he one-man army. But when he went there, 11th September 1893, mind you, that was also 9/11. 11th September 1893, but we did not listen to his message of harmony of religions, so there was another 9/11. And the World Tower broke. New York. Even today it is ground zero. The two World Trade Centers gone forever. And today also they are not able to rebuild those towers because of still that controversy is going on. There is another 9/11 in 1906. It is on 9/11 that Mahatma Gandhi first used the word Satyagraha in Johannesburg. So there are so many 9/11s. On 9/11, Gandhiji launched the Satyagraha movement from Johannesburg. 9/11, 11th September 1906, and it is on 9/11 Swami Vivekananda, 11th September 1893, delivered his historic speech. Very short speech. Only, first day only it was just a welcome speech that was given. You don't have to speak anything else. And only selected few from each religion were given. So he was given 5 minutes. And when he stood up, sisters and brothers of America, all the people, 4,000 people in the hall of Columbus stood up and just went on clapping, went on applauding. Swamiji thought, what is wrong? But then he thought, yes, it was a real applause. But for 2 minutes it continued. Can you imagine 2 minutes? But I thought there is some exaggeration. So I saw the original book, Parliament of World Religion, brought out the big 2 volumes, brought out by the chairman, Dr. Henry Burroughs. There he says, when Swami Vivekananda started speaking, and when he addressed them as sisters and brothers of America, all the people stood up and the applause lasted for a few minutes, not 2 minutes, 2 minutes. That is written in the book. And some places it is more than 2 minutes. So it was minimum 2 minutes. Just imagine. So 2 minutes already gone, now only left with 3 minutes. Within 3 minutes, whatever Swamiji said was so very important in 400 words. It changed the whole history of mankind. Not only history of India, whole history of mankind. Because there in this, he said that sectarism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism have long possessed this beautiful earth, drained it often with blood, and destroyed civilization and whole nations to despair. But for these horrible demons, our civilization would have been far better than it is now. But their time is come, and I fervently pray that the bell that tolled this morning in honor of this convention may be the death knell of all sorts of fanaticism, of all sorts of persecution, whether with the sword or with the pen, in the name of religion, and of all uncharitable feelings between persons wending their way to the same goal. This is what he told. But that didn't happen. Another 9/11 happened. Why? Because we didn't listen to his message, his warning that let us say goodbye to fanaticism. We have given a very dear price, but even today we are not stopping. Dr. Federico Meyer, the Director General of UNESCO, was asked this question, what is the relevance of Swamiji's Chicago addresses after 100 years? I am talking about 1993 when the centenary was celebrated of Swamiji's Chicago speech. No centenary ever had anybody heard centenary of a speech that time. So he was asked this question, what is the justification of UNESCO celebrating the centenary of a talk given by Swami Vivekananda 100 years back in the headquarters of UNESCO in Paris? Then he said, Swami Vivekananda, when he delivered his speech, was very relevant at that time. Now it has become much more relevant for saving the earth from the jaws of this fanaticism. And today, it is much more relevant when we are celebrating 125th anniversary of Chicago addresses. Why? In the meanwhile, 9/11 has happened, and so many other things are still going on. Like Samuel P. Huntington has written a book, The Clash of Civilization, Remaking of a World Order, where he says most of the wars that are being caused is not because of the countries that are facing. It is really clash of civilizations. It is war between religions because of the fanaticism. So that if we have to have world peace, we have to have a world civilization. Globalization has come, but where is global peace? Global peace cannot come till we have a global civilization. That cannot come till we say goodbye to fanaticism. And that is what Swami Vivekananda stood for. And that is what he told in the Chicago Parliament Religions. And that is what was taken up by Gandhiji and carried it forward. He said, no, we must have respect towards all religions. And Federico Mayer said, I was indeed struck by the constitution drawn up by Swami Vivekananda in 1897 with the constitution of UNESCO drawn up in 1945. As back as that, he was such a visionary that there he says in his constitution that anyone becoming a member, whether lay or monastic, will have to give a declaration writing that I will respect all religions as equal. Not only tolerate other religions, but I will accept all religions as equal and have respect towards all religions. That we have to see in writing. And not only that, from that time on towards today, in various branches of Ramakrishna Mission, 50 abroad, 150 in India, we have been celebrating Christmas Eve in our ashramas, Eid in all our 15 centers in Bangladesh, Guru Nanak Jayanti, Mahavir Jayanti, Buddha Jayanti, so many birthdays of all great people. And we have monks who are originally from America, from Japan, from Argentina, from various countries, who are Christian, Muslim, Sikh, Jain, all types of monks we have got in Ramakrishna Mission, and then we are all as brothers. Similarly, we have a parallel organization for Sarda Math. There also they are nuns from various countries and various faiths, but we are all together working. So this harmony of religions is the one connecting link between Mahatma Gandhi and Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda not only preached but practiced it in his organization. Mahatma Gandhi not only preached it but practiced it. Every day in the prayer morning, he will have prayer for all the different religions, and he will have that type of treatment. So there are many such parallels, but one thing is that South Africa, 1893 is a very important year. Two sons of India went out of India. Mahatma Gandhi went to South Africa and Swami Vivekananda went to America. And Swami Vivekananda brought freedom from the slavery, freedom, and he brought the glory of Indian spiritual culture. He got us freedom from that wrong notion about the country that we were having. And Gandhiji, he brought the political freedom. South Africa, he started that non-cooperation movement, and later on 1915 when he came, he experimented here, and that is how the freedom came. So both of them, in 1893, Swamiji goes to re-establish the glory of India from cultural and spiritual point of view, and Gandhiji goes and brings the glory on political field. So that is a great coincidence. Swami Vivekananda thought that work being done in South Africa will pay very heavy dividend in the long run, not in the short run. He wrote to his brother disciple, Swami Shivanandaji. He says, Swami Vivekananda says to his brother disciple Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Shivanandaji, that in the long run, this work in South Africa is going to pay much more dividend. He wrote this letter on 27th of December 1897, and at the instance of Mr. Settler, who wanted a person to be sent to South Africa, and Swamiji was told Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Shivanandaji, to go to South Africa because it's going to pay large dividend. He could not go, but doesn't matter. But Swamiji said, this is going to be a work of a perfect man. Later on, a perfect man went. And really, it brought the inspiration of the freedom. Nobody at that time had thought 27 December 1897, Swamiji said. Then, another thing is that Gandhiji had a great regard for Swamiji because Swami Vivekananda by that time had become world famous. So Mahatma Gandhi wrote to Mr. B.N. Bhajekar, who was an advocate of Bombay, letter dated 23rd February 1898, where he says, here in Africa, South Africa, what we need is a person like Swami Vivekananda. Can you not persuade him to come to South Africa? Then our work will be done. So he was persuading Mr. Bhajekar, the advocate, to bring Swami Vivekananda to South Africa. Swamiji could not go to South Africa, as you know. That was in 1898. That time Swamiji had just started Ramakrishna Mission. 1899 he went again to America, came back in 1901, and then 1902, at the age of 39 years, he left his body. So very little time for him. But both had, Gandhiji had a great admiration for Swami Vivekananda. And then not only that, in 1901, when Gandhiji went to Calcutta for attending the Indian National Congress meeting, he took that opportunity. He writes in autobiography, going all the way to Calcutta and coming back without meeting Swami Vivekananda would be foolish. So he took one day off from the Congress, went to Bellumat all the way to meet Swami Vivekananda. But unfortunately that day, Swami Vivekananda had gone to Calcutta. He was not in Bellumat because he was not well. So Gandhiji was very much disappointed that he could not meet. So ultimately the meeting could not take place. Though both were contemporaries, Swamiji was born 1863, Gandhiji born 1889, only 6 years younger to him, but they could not meet. So Gandhiji had gone there to meet, but he could not meet. He had a great disappointment. Then later on, after 20 years, Gandhiji again went to Bellumat. Now by that time he had become Mahatma. That time he had gone as an advocate. He went as a Mahatma Gandhi, and Muhammad Ali was there, Motilal Nehru was there, Kasturba was there, all of them were there. So that day happened to be the birthday of Swami Vivekananda, not according to English calendar. English calendar, as you know, is 12 January, but it was according to the Indian almanac. That day was the birthday of Swami Vivekananda. That time Gandhiji had gone there. And then he was shown the room in which Swamiji used to stay, had been preserved as it is, the clothes, the turban, the stake of Swamiji, and all that Gandhiji saw with a great veneration and great respect, with great curiosity. All this he was shown. And then there was a great assembly at that time because of that celebration. So all of them said, Gandhiji, please give a lecture. Then Gandhiji said, I have not come here to this great place to give a lecture. I have come here to pay my respects to the great memory of Swami Vivekananda. But since there are many youngsters here, I will tell them, when you have come to this great place of inspiration, do not go empty-handed. Take some of the inspiration from here. And then he said, please read the books of Swami Vivekananda. I have myself gone through the books of Swami Vivekananda. And after reading the books of Swami Vivekananda, the love that I had for my country became 1,000-fold. Gandhiji says, became 1,000-fold after reading the books of Swami Vivekananda. And really, the books of Swami Vivekananda are full of patriotism. Swamiji says, Gandhiji was a patriot, Swamiji was a patriot. But who is a patriot? Swami Vivekananda himself defined They talk of patriotism, but I have got my own idea of patriotism. First is the feeling. Do you feel? Do you feel for ignorance, for the ignorance that has come over the land as a black cloud? Does it make you restless? Does it make you sleepless? Has it entered into your blood, becoming consonant with your heartbeats? And have you forgotten all about your name, fame, wife, children, about your own property, even about your own body? Has been done? Has it been done? This is the first step to become a patriot. The only first step. That is not enough. Have you found out any practical solution to come out of this misery for the people? Have you got some plans? Have you worked out the plan, a practical plan to get out of it? Even that is not enough. Have you got tremendous willpower to carry that into practice? Even if the whole world is against you, can you surmount with only a sword in your hand? Can you face the whole opposition? Have you got that tremendous willpower? If you got these three things, each one of you will perform miracles. So these are the three conditions he put forward for being a patriot. And Swami Vivekananda was a true patriot from these three. You find all the three conditions fulfilled in Swami Vivekananda. He had tremendous love for the nation. How much love? That the day he became world famous, he was lodged in a very aristocratic family's house, and there was so much of luxurious furniture. And the next day morning, the landlady, the owner says, the lady saw Swamiji was not in his bed. He is on the floor, and the whole floor is wet with the tears. And she was very much afraid. Have I made any mistake in making him comfortable? Then he asked, Swamiji, have you made any mistake in making you comfortable? Then Swamiji, no, it is the other way around. It is so much of comfortable. It's so much of luxury. After seeing these luxurious beds and luxurious furniture, I remembered my country. In my country, people do not have any cot to sleep. They sleep on the floor. They have nothing to eat. They are so poor. All these things that I had seen when traveling for 6 years in my country, I saw with my own eyes the miseries of the people. And then I started praying to the Divine Mother. Mother, they are having so much of luxury. When my countrymen will have this much of comfort? When my countrymen will be able to have proper food and proper clothes? Whole night he was weeping. The day he became world famous, he was weeping. That was his feeling for the countrymen. So he had that feeling. Not only that, he had brought out the plan. Why so much of miserable condition? At one stage, India was on top of the world. Then what happened? What wrong? Is it due to religion? He said, no. He could remember while sitting on the last bit of rock at Kanyakumari while he is meditating on the miseries of the people. No. The real thing is that we forgot to practically implement whatever is given in our Shastras, in our religion. As long as we are applying those principles of Vedanta in our everyday life, India was on the top of the world in science, technology, in finance, on economic front, everywhere. But when we stopped implementing it and our religion entered into the kitchen pots, from that time the degradation started. So he said we have to revive the religion, but with empty stomach, no religion. The first, I must go to the West, bring science and technology from there. But I will not go as a beggar. I will go and take the nectar of Vedanta from here. They are in need of it. They want peace of mind. And in the exchange, I will bring science and technology and bring improvement for our country. So that was another reason why he had gone to America, not only for parliamentary religions, but for bringing science and technology and removing the poverty of the people. So, Swamiji had that plan also, how to remove that sufferings of people of his nation. And third, he had that tremendous willpower. Same thing we find in Gandhiji also, all the three qualities that Swamiji has told for being a true patriot. So both of them were true patriots, the two great patriots of India. And they both brought us glory. Gandhiji made the platform for getting the political freedom from the British dominion. And Swami Vivekananda gave us that glory, brought back the glory of India, spiritual glory, the glory of spiritual and spiritual culture of India. When Swami Vivekananda delivered his historic speech, that time there were so many teachers of the world had gone there. It was a biggest interfaith harmony experiment, the World Parliament Religions. And next day the newspapers were all in praise of Swami Vivekananda. In the front page his photograph was there, in all the streets the photograph, big posters of Swami Vivekananda was there. And so many, and the New York Herald, the newspaper, one of the most famous newspapers of Chicago at the times, wrote, New York Herald, the greatest figure in the Parliament of Religions is Swami Vivekananda. And after listening to him, we feel how foolish on our part to send missionaries to India. Their religion is so great, rather we should invite missionaries from India. The whole picture turned. India became one of the greatest countries of the world. This all happened overnight. So Swami Vivekananda brought us that glory of Indian spiritual culture. And he stayed on, he had to stay on for 3.5 years for propagating that religion and spirituality. And as I told you, one-man army, he had to reply so many foolish questions also sometimes. But all that he did, and he brought laurels for India. So it is not that only he talked about patriotism, he talked about the love of country, but he really contributed to it and brought our nation to a greater height. Swami Vivekananda also propagated serving the poor. So he said, so far you had learned the message, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. I am giving you now additional mantras which are more important for the modern age. And what is that? Daridra Devo Bhava, Rogi Devo Bhava. Worship the God in poor, worship the God in the sick. And not only that, he told this to his brother disciple. He said, no, we have become sannyasis, not only for God realization, but also serving the humanity, irrespective of caste, creed, color, religion, nationality. He sent 2 of his disciples to Haridwar, Kankhal. In a very small way, they started the hospital. They used to nurse the patients with their own hands. At that time, it was unthinkable. A monk cannot touch any untouchable. Swamiji did not believe in untouchability. And so he said, no, for us, every human being has got the divinity in that. So when this was started, there was a great commotion in the community of the monks there, Haridwar. They boycotted Ramakrishna Mission. Ramakrishna Mission sadhus will not be allowed to sit in the Bhandara. Why? They are Bhangi sadhus. The title that was given to us was a Bhangi sadhu, untouchable. We are untouchable sadhus. Why? Because we are touching the untouchable. And we are serving without, irrespective of caste, creed, color, religion, with our own hands. But we did not mind. We went on serving. After a long time, the hospital grew up. Then it so happened that one of the Mahamandleshwar of that sadhu community was treated in the hospital. When he saw the spirit of service there, then his eyes were changed. Then he made a declaration, no, these monks of Ramakrishna are doing the right thing. They are not doing service, they are doing worshipping God in man. And so it is also, according to Vedanta, it is also a part of path that has been newly drawn up by Swami Vivekananda. So I fully adorn it. And that is how later on the recognition came. And today, what is the position? Any Bhandara anywhere in whole of Haridwar, till the monks of Ramakrishna have come, the Bhandara will not start. The whole thing has turned. But in the beginning we had to run. So this Swami Vivekananda telling that we must worship the poor, we must serve the poor, he implemented it. Gandhiji also talked about serving the untouchable, serving the poor. He not only that he gave sermons on that. He started that also in his Sabarmati Ashrama. He told many people to start from it. But there was a conversation between Romarola and Dinbandhu Andrews. On 16 September 1928, Romarola asked, what is the connecting link between Swami Vivekananda and Mahatma Gandhi? Then Dinbandhu Andrews told Romarola. Romarola, you know, is the person who got Nobel Prize in Literature from France. He said, then Dinbandhu Andrews told Romarola, the connecting link is that Gandhiji got his not only inspiration but also the word Daridra from Swami Vivekananda. Later on, it is Gandhiji who popularized the word Daridra. Swami Vivekananda had coined it, but it is Gandhiji who popularized it. Even Vinoba Bhave also said that it is Swami Vivekananda who coined the word Daridra and it is Gandhiji who made it popular. Swami Vivekananda wrote in a letter to his disciples, I am no metaphysician, no philosopher, nay, no saint. I am poor, I love the poor. So he had so much of love for the poor and so much of feeling for the poor. Even in one of the most important letters that he ever wrote, he writes to Miss Mary Hell, my dear Mary, I had to talk a lot about myself because I owed that to you. Now I feel my task is done. At the most 3 or 4 years of life is left behind. I never wanted earthly enjoyments. I have lost all wish for my salvation. I must see my machine in strong working order and knowing for sure that I have put in a lever for the good of humanity which no power can yet drive back. At least in India, I will sleep without caring what will be next. And may I be born again and again and suffer thousands of miseries so that I may worship the only God that exists, the only God that I believe in, the sum total of all souls, and above all, my God the poor, my God the miserable, my God the poor of all, my God the miserable, my God the poor of all races, of all species, is the special object of my worship. So for Swami Vivekananda, poor, wicked are the special objects of worship. It is for that he started Ramakrishna Mission as a demonstration model that this is the real worship of God in man. So everywhere he used to command that, and he was a great awakener also. When he came back to India, Swami Vivekananda, he was given tremendous, grand welcome, as if it is the type of welcome that is given to a hero who has conquered the world. And in a sense, he had conquered the world. So, and in response to that, as a reply, he delivered very fiery speeches. From Colombo, that time Colombo was in India. From Colombo, he went to Ramnad in Madras, Chennai at the time Madras, Calcutta, all that, up to Almora in Himalayas. Everywhere he was given warm reception, everywhere he gave his replies. So all these fiery speeches have been compiled in the form of the book. The name of the book is Lectures from Colombo to Almora. And there he gave a clarion call, Uttisthata, Jagrata, Prapya Varan Nibodhata. Arise, awake and stop not till the goal is reached. And the whole country got awakened. For the first time there was awakening after 1000 years of slavery, deep sleep. Swamiji said, how long will you sleep? Get up. Ours is not a slave country. We have to, for liberty is the first condition of growth. We must get independence. And he said, in Chennai, he said, for the next 50 years, forget all your gods and goddesses. The only God is awake is our motherland of ours. Everywhere his feet, everywhere his hands, worship the Virat, this motherland of ours. For other what vain gods and goddesses will you worship when this living God is there? Forget about all other gods and goddesses. And he told them to go for the national development and for the national service and for the freedom movement. He exhorted them, and that is how the whole nation got awakened. It was the first awakening. Romarola says, did all these words go in vain? No. In 1905, The partition of Bengal was there. At the time, all the revolutionaries who sacrificed their lives, all of them were inspired by these words of Swami Vivekananda. That paved the platform for the great freedom movement, the Quit India movement that came up with Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhiji was a forerunner of the initial impetus that was given by Swami Vivekananda for the freedom movement. It is Gandhiji who implemented it later on, but Swamiji had given the initial push. He had gave out that awakening, and almost all the great patriots, the great revolutionaries, all of them, most of them, they derived their inspiration from the books of Swami Vivekananda. Dr. Radhakrishnan says, when we used to write our letters to our friends, we used to quote the books of Swami Vivekananda, letters of Swami Vivekananda there. Why? Because at that time, the intelligence department had written to British government, you must put a ban on the books of Swami Vivekananda, because in every revolutionary's house, we get these books of Swami Vivekananda. So we must put a ban. That was the official letter that was written by the CID department. So Dr. Radhakrishnan says we were afraid that we will be caught in the eyes of the intelligence department. So secretly we used to share the letters of Swami Vivekananda through our letters. Mahatma Gandhi himself, as I told you, said that my love for my country became 1,000-fold. Pandit Jawaharlal says hardly there was any young man who was not inspired by the books of Swami Vivekananda when we were young. Kaka Saheb Kalarkar says, I have known that great awakening that came after the Swamiji's speech in Chicago, and when he came back to India, the type of awakening that saw. Then Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, when he was in 9th standard in Cuttack, he chanced to look upon, read the book of Swami Vivekananda. Immediately he decided his whole life will be sacrificed for the nation. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Dr. Radhakrishnan, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Chakravarti Rajagopalachari, Sri Aurobindo, Mahatma Gandhi, all of them derived their inspiration from the books of Swami Vivekananda. So much of patriotism was there in the books for the nation. And so that great awakening, that later on Mahatma Gandhi, because he could live for a longer time, he made it practicable. Swamiji gave the initial impetus. Swamiji gave us the ideas. Swamiji got the first awakening. But for Gandhiji, it would not have taken fruits. So we are grateful to both. For Swamiji, for initiating the movement. For Gandhiji, for completing the movement and bringing us political freedom. But Swamiji had predicted it. In 1897, Swamiji had said, India will become independent from British dominion within 50 years, but in an uncommon way, without fighting a war. Nobody ever thought without a war any country could get independence. And he said this in 1897, and exactly after 50 years, India got independence in 1947. So Swamiji was not an astrologer, but he was a visionary. Whatever he said came true. But behind that was the eyes of a great historian, of a great leader who could foresee the forces that are going to come. But he said 50 years, exactly after 50 years came. Both were champions of poor, both were champions of untouchable, both were champions of women empowerment and women development. I cannot go through the details. And Swami Vivekananda said, nation lives in the cottages. Whatever development we have to do the nation, we must have first of all rural development, then national development will take place. And Gandhiji also did the same thing. For the first time he told in Congress people that we are talking all about our cities, but our real citizens live in the villages. What are we going to do that? He changed the focus of Congress for rural people. And Swami Vivekananda also told that it is rural India that has to come up. That will be the real awakening. About education, Swami Vivekananda said education alone is the panacea of all our evils. And Mahatma Gandhi also advocated that without education our nation cannot forward. There are many, many views about, I will not go into the details. And seekers of truth, both were seekers of truth. In fact, Gandhiji wrote in his autobiography, My Experiment with Truth. That is the name of the book that he has given to his autobiography. So he was a great experiment of truth, and that experiments went on. Swami Vivekananda was also a seeker of truth. When he was just Narendra Dutt, a college student, he wanted to know the truth. And everybody, any saint coming, he will ask this question, sir, have you seen God? Because I am the son of an advocate. I do not believe just because you say. I want documented evidence. So, have you seen God? He will ask the question. Nobody could reply. One day he went to Maharishi Devendranath Tagore, the father of Rabindranath Tagore. And he said, sir, I want to ask a question. Yes, I heard that you are meditating too much on God. Can you answer me? Have you seen God? Then Maharishi Devendranath Tagore looked at him for some time and said, my dear boy, your eyes are beautiful, those of a yogi. He was very much disappointed. I want my reply, but nobody is giving. One day he had gone to the college. He was studying in Scottish Church College, and the principal, Professor William Hastie himself, had come to take the class of English literature because the professor of English literature was absent that day, and he was teaching the Excursion, the poem by Wordsworth. And then there is a description. The poet goes into a trance, into a superconscious state, samadhi state, after seeing the nature. And the students ask us, so is it possible? Somebody can go to samadhi? Yes, it is possible. I have seen a person who goes frequently into this trance, into this samadhi state. If you want, you can see that person, because that person lives in Calcutta. There is the temple of Dakshineshwar, and the person who is there in Dakshineshwar temple, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, enters frequently into the state. So Swami Vivekananda, Narendranath says, okay, chalo, let us now go to that. Let us have a test. Then he goes there, and then he sits down at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. After a few discussions that Sri Ramakrishna is telling these devotees, then said, now enough of your preaching, now answer my question. Have you seen God? And for the first time he received the satisfactory reply. Sri Ramakrishna says, yes, I have seen God. I am seeing him more intensely than I am seeing you. If you want, you can also see him. But I can make you see him, but you have to undergo spiritual practices. That is the science of religion. H2O2 is makes CO2. I don't believe. This is not a question of belief. Come to the laboratory, have a hydrolytic process, and if you don't get water, then you tell me. Yes, I have seen God. You can also see. Come to the laboratory of spiritual practices. And then really he had the first-hand experience of Nirvikal Samadhi at Kashipur Garden House. That is why in the Chicago Parliament Religious he could deliver that speech with his authority. Shurvantu Vishve Amritasa Putra Aye Dhamani Divyani Tastu Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Aditvarnam Tamasa Parastat Tameva Viditvati Mritameti Nanya Pantha Vidyatayanaya. I have found the ancient one is beyond all miseries. I have myself seen him. If you want, you can also see him. By seeing him, you will go beyond all miseries. Then he had told Americans, sisters and brothers of America, let me call you by this sweet name, Amritasa Putra. You are the children of immortal bliss, holy and perfect beings. Ye divinity is on a sinner, it is a sin to call a man so. It is a standing labor on human nature. Come up, alliance, and shake up the delusion that you are sheep. Your souls immortal, spirits free, blessed and eternal. You are not matter, you are not bodies. Matter is a servant, not ye the servant of matter. And this message of divinity that was given by Swami Vivekananda, the same was taken up by Mahatma Gandhi, and he told, while talking to the Christians, that what you are going to give, we have got Vedanta, we have got that great spiritual culture. What extra you are going to do? Yes, I respect. But when you talk of conversion, I say there is a limit. For you, Christ is greater. For me, my Rama is better. So you go in your path, I go on my own path. I have got that great nectar of Vedanta with me, the nectar of my ancient culture, spiritual culture. So Gandhiji never had any doubt about the pride of his own spiritual culture of the country. And so he also practiced what Swamiji had told, and he also mentioned this in time and again. Last, there are so many points, but last. You see all over the world now, the type of leadership that is being advocated is servant leadership. As you know, Robert Greenleaf, he started in 1976, but now he wrote a book, Servant Leadership. Now it is becoming very popular. But that concept of servant leadership was already given by Swami Vivekananda in his letters when he said, you have to be a servant first if you want to become a real leader. And he gave the word, सिरदार वही सरदार. सरदार कौन हो सकता है? पगड़ी पहनने से ही सरदार नहीं होता है. सरदार मीन्स लीडर, नेता. हु कैन बी ए रियल सरदार? जो सिर दे सकता है. सिर दे सकता है मतलब तलवार से काटने का नहीं है. अहंकार. You have to sacrifice your ego. You have to sacrifice your selfishness. You have to lead by example, not by precept. Oh, you give up this one. No, I'll give up first. I'll face the whole army from the front. If I tell all the people, you go in front, I am behind, nobody will go. I will go, yes, you follow me, and the whole army follows you. So that is what Swami Vivekananda did. He faced all the tribulations, all the struggles boldly. He practiced his servant leadership. When he went abroad, he had, as you know, I told you that he had gone, he wanted to start a machinery for serving the people, and then these ideas. So whatever little money he brought after lectures, he was cheated also many times because he was in a foreign country and he had lot of experiences, bitter experiences, whatever little money he brought. As soon as he came back, he handed over to his brother disciple Swami Brahmananda. He said, now I am free. This money was for the work, now I am penniless again. Handed over that money, started Ramakrishna mission, not Vivekananda mission. Started Ramakrishna mission in the name of his Guru. He did not become the first president. Made brother disciple Swami Brahmananda his disciple. This is practicing the servant leadership. There, that is, he became a servant. He said, I am the servant of my all brother disciples. If they tell me from tomorrow my work is to clean the latrines, I will take up that work very cheerfully. I am nobody. So he did not accept any power position, but he did all the works from the front. That is servant leadership, leading by example rather than by precept. That is what he did and what he practiced. Same thing was done by Mahatma Gandhi. 13 February 2002, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam had come to Porbandar to inaugurate one of the 81 school buildings that we had constructed as a part of the earthquake rehabilitation project. So, after his speech, there was a question answer. So, one question was asked, what is the source of your inspiration? Dr. Kalam said, you know, normally I do not leak out this secret, but this is the proper place to leak out this secret. Then he said, I was in 8th standard, I was the monitor of my school, my headmaster called me, tonight you bring all the children to the school, they must listen to the running commentary, no TV at that time, 15th August 1947, and India will become independent, let them listen to the running commentary. He said, I brought all the children, all the students. Of course, we were very happy. India became independent. Of course, we could not understand the speech that was given in Hindi because we neither knew Hindi nor English, we knew only Tamil. But whatever, we were very happy. Then Dr. Kalam says, next day, I saw in the newspaper 2 photographs. The first photograph showing Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru hoisting the Indian flag on the Red Fort, and I was very happy to see that photograph. Then he says, by the side was the second photograph. That second photograph was my primary education, was my secondary education, was my college education, and was my life education. And what was that photograph? At that, the photograph was showing when the whole nation was celebrating the independence of India, the person who did maximum for achieving this independence of India was not celebrating the freedom of India. What he was doing, he was walking barefooted on the streets of Calcutta, wiping the tears of the people who were affected by Nawak Khale riots, Mahatma Gandhi. He said, then I could understand what is the nobility of leadership. What a noble leader. After getting the independence, he could have become the Prime Minister of India. Yes, he deserved it. He did not take up any accept any power position. For sacrifice, he was first. For getting the fruits, he was the last. Unlike the modern leaders, for sacrifice, last. For getting the chair, first. But that was the real leader. Nobility of leadership, Swami Vivekananda, as Dr. Kalam said, that then I could understand what is the nobility of leadership. So this nobility of leadership, this is servant leadership, which was practiced by Swami Vivekananda, which was practiced by Mahatma Gandhi. Both were great leaders. India has given two great gifts to the world, one of Swami Vivekananda, one Mahatma Gandhi. And these are two great pillars for us, two great lights. There have been many lights. Edwin Arnold talks about the light of Asia, Bhagwan Buddha, of course. But these are the two great lights which can even today inspire us to go for serving humanity, irrespective of caste, creed, color, religion, nationality, to go for harmony of religions, to go for making our country the greatest in the world by our service attitude, by our love for the country, by love for the nation, to go for Daridra and Seva, and to practice this servant leadership in our life. This is the best tribute that we can pay when today 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi is going on. It is going to go on for 2 more years, as I hear from the government of India sources. And the 125th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda Chicago addresses, when these two great coincidence, is a great coincidence of these two great people, the best we can do is to learn the great lessons that have given us, read their lives. There are so many inspiring incidents from their lives. Read their lives again, not only their teachings. And in the background of their lives, we can understand the teachings that they have given us. And if we can imbibe even a small fraction of that, what a wonderful India it would be. Swami Vivekananda predicted in 1897, India shall conquer the whole world by spiritual culture. That is yet to happen. But we feel whatever Swami Vivekananda said has come true. He was a visionary. He was not an astrologer, but he was a visionary. He said after 50 years India will become independent. It is exactly after 50 years India became independent. He said in 1893 at the house of Professor John Henry Wright that after India becomes independent, there is a great danger that China may attack India. That happened in 1962, but he had predicted that. He had also predicted that the next great upheaval is going to come from either China or Russia. I cannot see clearly. Either it will be China or Russia. Nobody predicted at the time. They all predicted there was a big labor movement in Germany. So they predicted the great movement will come up from Germany, but it really came up from China and Russia at that time, 1890. So Swami Vivekananda was not only a great historian, but also a great visionary. He meditated. He used to meditate deeply on India, on Indian people, on India's freedom, on India's future. So one day he was meditating, and after that, when his meditation was over, then he said, "Oh, I have seen." Then the disciples were curious, "Swamiji, what you saw?" He said, "I saw next 500 years of India." Huh? You saw next 500 years of India in your vision? Yes, I saw. What did you see? I saw, Swamiji said, that India has become great. India has become so great that its past glory will fade into insignificance. We are heading for that. Just only out of 500 years, 100 years are gone. We have to go a long way. But within 500 years, surely Swamiji's things are going to come true. We are very happy that the nation is now taking up Mahatma Gandhi as a role model and is taking up also Swami Vivekananda message. There is some enthusiasm among the people, and I feel great joy when the youngsters are also taking up. They are reading the books of Vivekananda and Gandhiji, and I am sure these two great lights will continue to guide us for making India a country highest, greatest in the whole world. Thank you very much.